Welcome into another edition of the Gator Spotlight Series here on the Sports Lab on ESPN 98.1 FM, 850 AM WRUF. My name is Ethan Ibe, and today we are joined by a man of many talents. You know him as the voice, or one of the voices of Gator baseball, and of course a host right here on The Tailgate. Jeff Cardozo, great to be with you.
Yeah, good to see you, man. It's there is a lot, but it's most of them are fun, so I can say that at least.
Yeah, a whole lot of gigs. We'll get to all of that.
Sure.
But for now, we'd love to talk to you and pick your brain about Gator baseball.
Yeah.
At this point this season, 11-2. This is being recorded just before the FAU game on this Wednesday and before the Harvard series. So the record will be different by the time this airs. But what has been your evaluation of this team to this point, winning 11 in a row to start the year, firing on all cylinders for the most part?
Yeah, I'm excited about Harvard. That was my backup school. No, just kidding.
Really?
That's sweet. No, I think good. And you look at last year's team and this year's team, it's totally different. You lose a guy like Cags, which, I never thought I would say that Brad Wilkerson wasn't the best player in Florida history, but now Cags comes in and does what he did in 2.5 years. It's pretty tremendous. So you lose that, now you've got to figure out what to do. And I think Sully and Coach Geralman and the rest of that staff has put together a really nice group of veterans. But that's what it's turned into now with NIL and transfer portal and everything that you've got to be a part of. So, you go get Bozer, who had 400 at-bats at USF. You go get Jones, who was an All-American last year. And so it's just, I think the pieces are there. The lineup's definitely a lot deeper. I think there was a lot of times last year, 1 through 5, okay, yeah, we got a chance. And then 6, 7, 8, 9, I'm sitting there writing F8 or strikeout in the scorebook the entire time. So lineup's got a chance to be really deep. I think you've got certainly some arms at the top of the rotation can be really, really good. And I think you've got some dudes on the back end. Phil Potts really figured it out. Just his transformation from last year to this year has been really cool. So when it's all said and done, I like the group. I guess now the test is when we go to Knoxville next week and see if we can beat the defending champs.
Yeah, SEC play just around the corner. Now, there is no replacing a guy like Jack Caglione,
Sure.
but it seems like this team has been built to not rely as much on the home run ball. Yeah. Would you agree?
Totally. I mean, you're already, at 30 stolen bases basically, and you had
so true.
43 all of last year. So the way to run, a couple of sack bunts over Miami, which certainly helped move guys over, and you got them in. So that was really cool to see. And yeah, it's just there's more line drives. I think it's just they're so. It was so reliant on Jack hitting that home run last year, and that's not the case, or Shell having to come up and get a big hit. So now you've got these dudes that can hit line drives, balls in the gaps. I think Shelton has really changed his swing. We see him; he's got 5 or 6 hits already going the other way to left field. So you never saw that last year. I mean, the addition of Stripling certainly. And then, you've got the outstanding freshman from Canada that's come in and done some great things already. So you've just, it's a cool lineup. And it's been really fun to see, too, where a righty is out there on the mound for the opponent, and then all of a sudden you've got a whole bunch of lefties in the lineup, and then once they bring in a lefty, well, then you can go to the bench and get a Ty Evans or a Jones and, all these guys. So a lot of good flexibility for sure.
Yeah, and we saw the pitching struggle yesterday at UCF quite a bit, but your take so far on what the pitching staff has been able to show you? This weekend rotation has been solid. There might be some health concerns, though. What is your opinion so far?
Throw strikes. I mean, it's as easy as that. It sounds so elementary, and I tell the kids out that I've coached since they were 5 or 6 years old, but throw strikes and you got a chance to win. You look at these 2 games, and it's walk a guy, hit a guy. I mean, we've had 3 bases loaded walks in the last 2 games. Like, this is a college level. Come on, like that can't happen. So I think that's part of it. I think Clemente he just had a bad outing on Sunday. I think he's got the mindset, the mentality. I mean, you saw him up in the Cape. You know how good he can be. I like dudes that can compete, and Liam Peterson, I think, has finally figured that out. I think last year, even though he had all the stuff in the world, I think he was scared mentally, some of the things that he wasn't able to, and now it's no big deal. He's able to be calm on the mound and then turns into a psychopath in the dugout and having some good times. But you need that. You need to have that mentality of, hey, that dude 60 feet 6 inches away from me is trying to beat me, and I'm trying to beat him. So everybody's good at this level. Go out and compete, and I think that mental aspect is going to start to trigger some of these pitchers. And once they figure that out, I mean, this might be the best group of arms that Sully's ever had, which is nuts to think about because that 2017 team had 3 big leaguers in the rotation. So
23 as well, had some pretty decent guys.
Not too shabby.
No doubt. You pitched here 98 through 2000. Do you ever take the opportunity to kind of share any lessons from those years with those guys who are pitching for the Gators today?
Yeah, early on when Sully first got here, it was kind of cool. It was a fun little story. We don't often get to play Auburn, but when we play Auburn, we actually stay at Opelika, which is this really cool Robert Trent Jones golf course.
Oh, cool.
So it's like the one trip that I look forward to because we don't do it a lot. So it's every maybe 4 to 6 years. And then there's these great golf courses on it. So it's early on in Sully's career. And I have a tee time in probably like 45 minutes. And I get a knock on the hotel door and it's Sully. And I'm like, hey, we hadn't really talked yet. He's like, hey, I just wanted to pick your brain a little bit on, what Florida baseball is all about. What's been successful? Why are these guys that were now in College Baseball Hall of Fame, why didn't they last here? Things like that. So of course, 3.5 hours later, I missed my tee time and stuck talking to Sully. But it was great. I think over the years, I've been able to bring some of that. I mean, there's times where my previous job, I ran a golf course here in town, so I'd actually get some of those guys to be interns for me, and I'd be able to have these conversations, just more about the mental aspect of the game and what it takes to be successful. Kind of like what I said with just kind of flipping a switch and going through all that. So yeah, there's been years where the team's been struggling, and Sully will call me in, and I'll go in there and MF him a little bit, so he doesn't have to, and we'll have a good time. But I think that's great. I mean, my passion is certainly for this program. I've had opportunities to leave and be a part of other stuff, but then you think about it, it's like, well, gosh, baseball's really good. I'm doing football games and part of basketball stuff, and it's just every single sport around here is so good. Then why would you want to go somewhere else?
For sure. Like, what about Gator Nation really sticks with you, and what has kept you around?
Yeah, I think just the passion. It's been fun to really see and get to know this community. I think more than anything, and having a kid, well, 3 kids, but only one got my athletic genes that could play sports. But just to see them grow in this community, and everybody knows everybody, and then you're helping people, and you're doing stuff, and you're going to these events, and you're just being a part of that. Just the care and the passion, I think, has been the neatest part. And I've worked really hard to try to form relationships and be around people, and be able to rely on other people, and certainly the people that I've known and met through this industry, and the guys that I've gotten to play with and be a part of. I think you can bring it all back full circle. And my parents went here, so I always wanted to be a Gator, and I got a couple other offers, and when it came down to it, it was just like, I'm going to go to Florida. Like, it's kind of stupid to not say that. And then just having the ability then MC national championship celebrations with Tebow on stage, all these other things. It's just, I don't know. I couldn't have my same passion going to another place. I know some people just kind of chase a job, or they'll go and try to take one, but I mean, I couldn't imagine somebody called me and say, hey, you want to go be the Georgia guy?
Nope.
You couldn't do it. So just because of that passion, although the Georgia guy's actually awesome. So I love Jeff so much. So yeah, it's good.
Good stuff, good stuff. Now, one thing you and I both have in common was we both spent a summer in the Cape Cod, which was funny. Me as a broadcaster last year, you, when you were here playing for the Gator baseball team, when did you go, where did you go, and what was your experience out there?
Yeah, I mean, amazing summer. Just about 90% of it was a good experience. The bad experience, to start with that, is my host family, they were vegetarians.
Oh no!
So all they did was like cook vegetables, and I'm like, dude, for one, I hate vegetables. Like, that's way too much green, but how am I supposed to, put on weight and do all these other things? But the house daughter worked at one of the kind of the coves or beaches, so we got to do some cool things. But I played in Katuitt. We ended up winning it all that summer. It was a great summer. Chase Utley was on that team. Garrett Atkins was on that team. The catcher, Dane Sardina, ended up being in the big leagues for several years. Center fielder was this fast white dude that just ran balls down, and he got up with the Blue Jays for a couple of years. So yeah, there's 5 or 6 big leaguers a part of that team, and I worked at a golf course called Old Barnstable. So during the day, I'm working at a golf course, and at night, going and breaking bats and having a good time. But it was great. Struck out Mark Teixeira that summer, so that was kind of like my claim to fame of what I got to do. But yeah, just a tremendous experience. I got to play in 3 different summer ball locations. Obviously the Cape was the premier of all of it. The summer before, I played in Virginia in the Valley League. John Rauch was on that team, who actually was the tallest Major League Baseball player ever, 6'11". So we called him Lurch from the Adams family. So a lot, just great experiences. And then even just my time here, we had a reunion for the '98 team that ended up going to the World Series. We were the 1 seed back as a player, so we all got on this group chat several years ago, and still to this day, like you could pull up my phone right now, and there's everybody just chiming in about baseball or life or sending pictures of their kids. And one of the guys just committed, his son committed to Fresno State to play football. And so it's all these really cool things and relationships that you get to be a part of.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Was professional baseball ever in the cards for you?
It was, but I had 2 shoulder surgeries, so that ended the playing days. So actually my junior year here, it was the summer after the Cape. I came back, shoulder was bothering me a little bit, so I didn't pitch a ton up there. So in and out, and just made sure I pitched when I needed to. Had a MRI, showed a tear in my rotator cuff, and back then, like, they didn't know much about that, and if you had the surgery, you're basically done. So it was like, there's no way I want to be done yet. So I ended up pitching my junior year. I started on Saturdays, and I never threw a bullpen the entire year.
Wow.
So I basically picked up a ball, threw on Saturday, and then shut it down all week just to be ready again for the next start on Saturday. So, it was a fun year. We went 4-2, went to Baylor for a regional. We were the 2 seed. Baylor was a 1 seed, and we both ended up losing our first game. And so it was us versus Baylor, me versus the 1 seed in Baylor.
Wow.
To basically move on or your season's over. I threw a complete game. Ended up beating Baylor, knocking them out of the regional. And the really funny story about that is the Baylor sports information director was some guy named Scott Strickland.
That's
So
right.
now the Florida athletic director, which is really crazy. So Scott Strickland saw me pitch, and they hated me because it ended their season.
Yeah.
And when you're a regional host, you got to stay there the rest of the time and do all the games and all that other stuff. So he actually remembered, Florida being up there and beating them. So I tried to tell that story a few times and
Wow.
Poke him a little bit. But so then had the surgery after the year. Hoped to get better, and then shoulder just never got better. So I never even played my senior year. And I talked to a few guys up in the Cape. Seattle had called during the draft, and I just said, let me get the surgery, see how I do. I don't want you to waste a pick.
Yeah.
I think that the hard part is, there was certainly a bunch of guys that I was better than in college that ended up making the big leagues. So just the unknown. But I get to do some pretty cool stuff and be around all these sports. So I think if I was sitting at a desk, selling insurance or something,
Yeah.
I'd probably regret some of it. But I'm going to get to do some pretty cool things, so I can't be too mad at it.
Let's talk about how you got there.
Yeah.
What was the transition like from being the athlete to then the broadcaster? When and how did that come to be?
So I was trying to figure out my life, and I think just like you and all the great guys, we had a show here. I was in school with Aaron Andrews at the time,
Wow.
so Aaron and I were pretty close. Jeff Chandler was the kicker on the football team. He and I were like really good friends, so we'd go out and do all the journalism stuff and TV1 and TV2 and radio and do all these things. But I was a sports editor in my high school paper, so always wanted to do something in sports and be a part of it. I did the morning announcements in high school, and I think all these people that now see what I get to do, they're like, man, you've always wanted to do this. And I think I got lucky. I think certainly playing at Florida helped that fact. And then just one day I was helping out in the press box the year after I was done. I was the official scorer for that next year, and one of the days, like the guy that was doing play-by-play was fine, but then the guy was doing color was sick, so he couldn't do it. Then it was kind of last minute, so they said, hey, Jeff, jump in the booth and do it. I did the game. I guess I got a whole bunch of phone calls the next day saying, hey, we like this guy.
Okay.
And, remembered, and then I got several more games that year, and then just kind of grew from there. And I ended up hosting the Gator Zone TV show when we had that back in the day when James Bates moved on, and did that, and then took over volleyball and doing the PA there, and then the football broadcast and basketball and all this stuff. And so it was good. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of weird hours. I was doing TV 20 at 5:30 in the morning, helping produce the news there and do some different things. But it's because they wanted me to fill in on the weekends as the sports guy, so I anchored there and did some different things. And I think when it's all said and done, it's just what I see. Sometimes when I get to come here and do my show, you guys just have fun with it. And I think that word "fun" is probably the most important out of any of them. I've seen a lot of broadcasters over the years. I remember they asked me to do some Dodge commercials, 15 years ago, but it was like, hey, we want you to throw a suit on and sit there and that's not me.
No.
Like let's do something different, some fun stuff. And we ended up they were trying to sell trucks that summer. So I said, let's get a kiddie pool. We'll put it in the back of the truck. I'll put on some board shorts and the little floaties and then splash around. And I think they still to this day, I ran into the guy that runs the Dodge dealership, and he said that's the best summer we've ever had at selling trucks. So I think that's what it's all about, just showing your personality and enjoying it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What was there a call that like sticks out to you from Gator baseball over the years that you got to call this moment and it's always going to be with you?
Yeah, I think everything's spontaneous, as you know. I just feel like if you practice something or rehearse something or you try to come up with something that's just not going to sound organic or just not the right way. So I was on the call when Langworthy hit the home run in 2018. So and it was it just kind of came to me. I'd never said it all year. And he hits the ball, it hits off the right fielder's glove, pops over the fence, and it's just Lang with a bang.
Now a ball and 2 strikes. Fastball hit out towards left pretty well. Williams going back off of his glove, and it's out of here. Lang with a bang. Heads up Omaha. The Gators are coming back to defend their title.
And then, obviously, then part of that was Gators went to Omaha because of that home run. It was just a grind out super regional, but yeah, that's something I'll always remember. And then it was Mick's last year in 2017, Mick Hubert, and he taught me so much throughout this. And and he had told me that he's going to retire from baseball, and that would be the last year he'd do it. And then in 2018, I would take over as the voice of the Gators, baseball wise. And so, of course, we win the national championship that year, and him and I are sitting. It's actually I'm on that side, Mick's here, and we're watching the field and seeing everything that's going on. He's making the call, and I kind of put my arm around him. He looks over at me, and he's got tears coming down. I've got tears coming down, and it was just a really special moment because he had done so many things, and he is the first guy to ever call a baseball, a football, and a basketball national championship. So I thought that was really, really cool, and to be there with him for that. He had wanted baseball for forever to get that national championship, and of course I, playing here and the relationships that I have always wanted to be a part of that too, and to be able to do that, I think that's something I'll never forget. And kind of the same thing, we were doing the football game in LSU when we had the goal line stop. And that was when all the hurricane stuff was going on and different things, and game had to be postponed here, so we had to play in Baton Rouge, and we get the goal line stop, sends the Gators under McElwain into the SEC championship game, and same thing. I just kind of put my arm around him, and just a lot of memorable, enjoyable moments for sure.
Those are the things you never forget. That's really cool.
No doubt.
Is there a particular player that was maybe the most entertaining interview you've ever had? Be it across any sport that you've had the chance to cover, baseball, football, what have you. Is there anyone that sticks out?
That's a really good question. I think there's baseball-wise, I've had so many relationships with those guys, so I think they open up more.
Yeah.
I think there's been some really good football ones over the years too. Remember like Riche Caldwell back in the day, Gerard Warren, big money, guys like that. But nothing like, it's just the ones that open up more. But I can say, I think out of all the people that I've interviewed and gotten to be a part of and do things with, getting to be around Graham Mertz these last couple of years was pretty special.
Yeah.
I probably interviewed more than 1,000 Gator athletes over the years and the different things. And I would say he's top 5 just of his care, his want for what Gator Nation was and being around that. I just thought he was a truly genuine person, had a lot of fun. I guess in fun though, like out of all the interviews, Grant Holloway would probably be the best. we could screw around together and have some fun the most. But yeah, Grant Holloway's a great dude.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, okay, we've gone over just about everything that you have done, still do. I mean, you ran the golf course for years. Now I think you're at UF Health.
Yeah.
Just all these different other jobs that you've got, in addition to the one that you do have that's full time. How do you find the time? How have you navigated that?
Yeah, I think you got to enjoy it for one. And certainly there's times where you wish you could do stuff, but I've always made sure that I'd be able to go to a kid's play or a kid's baseball game.
And family too.
Yeah, and do all that. And, you don't sleep much, but I think you wake up and just that you're going to enjoy every single day. And I think if you're around stuff like that and get to be a part of it, then I mean, why not do it? And I mean, we're young, so go through the grind. And I look at a lot of people that maybe can't do that or maneuver around or can be a part of stuff, and I don't want to ever get that way. So I want to be as active as I can and try to do stuff. And for me, it's hard to say no too. Everybody asks me to do a lot of different things or be a part of events or stuff, and I think it's great because I enjoy it, and I like meeting the people and going out there and talking to people and just interacting, and I'll never, if you're in Target and someone says, hey Jeff, I'll talk to him. It's like, I think that's just what you always have to do. But I mean, that's it. I think more than anything, you have to have that want. You got to be a part of that grind. You have to understand that, hey, you're not going to get to do this forever, so you might as well do it good and have a lot of enjoyment with it while you can.
Good stuff. Let's talk about Austin. I'm very curious about where he's at now. Just graduated Buchholz. He's still playing ball, I understand. Where's he at these days?
Yeah, he's at Santa Fe.
Okay.
So he was not as smart grade-wise as I was. So I think that hurt him a little bit. But there's and it's crazy too. So I have two daughters that have never gotten to be in their lives. Like one's here at Florida as a sophomore. She's actually in Ireland right now studying abroad. So cool. She's sending me all these really cool pictures. But Austin was just always that baseball guy, right. Football guy, athletic guy. He's got a really strong arm. It's been fun to watch him grow. But I think, the hardest part about maybe raising a kid is I know so much about the sport, and I would, tell him or try to tell him, here's what you need to do, or here's how you need to act, or here's what and I'm dad. So he's like, screw you, dad. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, you don't know. But then if you told him and you're the coach or something, he would listen to you more because it's a different voice. So I think that was always the one struggle with Austin. But I mean, we have a great relationship. It's so cool coaching him all these travel teams over the years and just seeing his competitive nature. And I think that's the one thing that I'm glad he learned. Like he learned when you step over that white line, you have to really want it and understand it. And I can't take the credit for that. It's actually David Ross, who was a teammate of mine in 1998.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the old the Cubs manager, obviously, and
Dancing with the Stars,
second place with all that. But I'll never forget this. I'm pitching down in Miami, and I come in, I strike out Pat Burrell at the time.
Wow.
So Mr. Number One pick, all these great things. So I feel like I'm the coolest guy on the planet. And couple innings later, he comes up again. It's the 8th inning, and I had struck him out on an inside fastball, like some run, and it froze him. So I was like, you know what, I'll stay away, and then I'll maybe try to come back to that later on in the at-bat. Well, he hit a ball that's probably still orbiting Earth. Like, that's how far he hits this ball. They win the game, and I remember Ross coming out, and he walks out to the mound, and he was very vocal. But, I mean, he walks over, and he grabs me, like, right here, and he says, if you don't effing figure this thing out, then you're never going to be good at this level. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't really understand. So we get back to the hotel that night, and I said, Rossi, like, what are you talking about? He's like, Jeff, everybody loves you. Like, you're class clown, you're good. I was actually class clown in high school. So,
no doubt.
So, but you have to, at this level, turn into something different. You've actually really got to be a prick or, something mean on that mound, because all those guys want to beat you. They want to make the big league someday. They want to be successful. And, I've always tried to instill that in Austin. So I owe Rossi so much. You can see why John Lester loved him so much and wanted him to be the personal catcher wherever he went. But it's like lessons like that you learn along the way. So Austin's that same type of guy. He really competes. And the crazy part is he's way better than I ever was. They made the state championship game last year, Buchholz did, and he was a big part of that. And he was all state as a sophomore and, all these things. So, yeah, I hope he can figure it out and get going, because he's got a chance to do some damage.
No doubt about it. Best of luck to him.
Yeah.
A couple questions left for you.
Sure.
Appreciate the time so far.
Yeah.
We know so much about you at this point, but is there one thing that you haven't really talked about yourself that would maybe surprise people, something about you that people don't know? That's kind of putting you on the spot.
Yeah,
right?
No, yeah, I don't think so. I'm pretty much an open book.
Yeah.
I think, people have done stories and done different things where, I think, now sometimes, where you get in life, it's nice to just chill and, be away from things and, not have to worry about some of the stuff that's going on. But yeah, no really like crazy, weird stories, fun stories. Yeah, it's been a good ride.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And my last one for you. Bold prediction for the 2025 Florida Gator baseball season. Anything that you want to call your shot on right now?
Yeah, I think they just keep playing hard. I'm so enamored by how good this league has gotten. I can't believe that Arkansas has never won because they've been so good over all these years. And it's just, I think now when we go to Tennessee in 2 weeks, I'm anxious to see, because remember a couple of years ago, everybody hated this Tennessee program, and they were cocky, they were arrogant, they're putting on the fur coat, they're doing all these other things. And, I think even for Tony Vitello, he had to learn, he had to adjust and say, okay, well, I can't have our guys, I need to tone it back in a little bit. I still can get those types of players, but they need to act differently and do some different things. So they've obviously been really, really good. So I think that's the fun part. I'm anxious to see if they can handle some stuff on the road, because there are still some dudes that I think need to throw strikes and figure it out mentally. I'm anxious to see if Liam Peterson can handle it, because I think last year there were times where he had the best stuff in the country, and other times he throw 4 balls in a row and then all of a sudden just say, man, I don't know what to do. So I think it'll be a long grind. It's 30 games of kind of craziness, which is nuts to think about. And nuts to think about too is Florida's been to the World Series now 9 of the last 14 years. And I remember calling Mick last year when we got there again, because I knew I had, I think, passed him on how many times we had been to Omaha, because he got to broadcast there when I was a player. He also did it in '96 when I wasn't here yet. So, and then we had done all the games in Omaha together. So I was like, Mick, I finally got you, because you haven't done baseball the last couple of years. He's like, yeah, you're right. So it's just you get spoiled. My youngest daughter, when we ran on that run of 4 straight years, I would always bring the family out to Omaha. So I remember her telling me when we didn't go in 2019, she's like bawling. I'm like, Dad, what's wrong? And she goes, Dad, we're not going to Omaha this year? Aww. Like she thought it was a summer vacation, because that's like what we always did. So yeah, didn't get to experience that, but and she still to this day loves that trip, and she's a sophomore in high school. So, but no, they've got a chance to be good if they can pitch. That Sully knows how to coach, and look at what they did last year and how they turned things around. I think they're still maneuvering, and they're trying to figure out what lineup's best and who to play where and what's going to happen.
Don't let the midweek scaries frighten you off.
Yes, do not do that. And then Curlin, him being out of the lineup, I think hurts a little bit too. We'll see what happens with Coppola, but if you got Liam and Coppola and Clemente and the talent that he has, Philpott on the back end, Aiden King with what he's been able to do. I love Christian Rodriguez too, coming out of the bullpen after his Tommy John last year. So yeah, there's 8 or 9 guys in that bullpen and on that mound where you feel confident they'll be able to pitch when it's all said and done.
Good stuff. A whole lot to look forward to with Gator baseball this year in 2025 as they look to return to Omaha for the 3rd straight year. Jeff Cardozo, thanks so much for being here.
Of course, thanks, Ethan.
This has been the Spotlight Series here on the Sports Lab, ESPN 98.1 FM, 850 AM WRUF. I'm Ethan Ibe. Thanks so much for tuning in.